It's okay to be a man.
It's not okay. It's necessary. What the hell are we going to do without men? You look around the city here, you see all these buildings go up. These men, they're doing impossible things. They're under the streets, working on the sewers. They're up on the power lines in the storms and the rain. They're keeping this impossible infrastructure functioning.
Feminism is a scam. A few years ago, I was an angry, blue-haired feminist. I once believed that male privilege was real and that I was a victim of the wage gap.
What's going on, guys? This is Eddie, the African Red Pill. Welcome to the video. In this video, what are we talking about? We're talking about how feminism is a scam. Actually, feminism is a cancer. Let's check out from this beautiful young lady who used to be a feminist, but now she's reformed and found her true ways. Let's check out and then we'll talk about it. Let's get into it.
Feminism is a scam. A few years ago, I was an angry, blue-haired feminist. I once believed that male privilege was real and that I was a victim of the wage gap. Now that I understand the true motives of feminism, I know that this could not be further from the truth, and that modern-day feminism is a war on true masculinity. Before women had the right to vote, most were stay-at-home wives, which meant they weren't working jobs and couldn't be taxed. Our overlords didn't like that. Rockefeller started funding feminist campaigns in media, and as a consequence of the movement, women started entering the workforce and leaving the home. Children would then be separated from their parents and sent to Rockefeller-funded schools to be indoctrinated by the state. All of this ultimately disrupting the family unit at its core. Feminism is defined as the belief in social, economic, and political equality of the sexes. But in the West, I must ask, what rights do men have that women don't? Modern feminists are convincing women that hookup culture, using hormonal birth control, and not shaving is liberation. That toxic masculinity is prevalent and the patriarchy must be dismantled. Through movies and media, we're taught that working for the man, climbing the corporate ladder, and paying tax is more empowering and valuable than raising the next generation. Women have lost touch with our natural loving instincts, and birth rates are plummeting. Men and women are not the same. And by protesting for equality of outcome rather than opportunity, feminists are demonizing and emasculating men.
I don't blame anyone who's a feminist. I don't blame anyone who succumbs or who believes in all these ideals. I used to be one of them. Everybody who's born after 1960s has been indoctrinated with some ideals to do with feminism. Whether you're a man or a woman, you've been indoctrinated with those ideals. No wonder you support anything, even if it's not logically sensible, as long as it has to do with women in line with feminism. Most men support that. I've been such type of a victim as well. Not before my eyes got opened when I became red pill. Yeah, stuff to do with the wage gap. The wage gap bullshit is one of the easiest things to debunk. Let me just summarize it by saying this. Feminists or women believe that there's a wage gap. Or maybe you as well, even if you're not a feminist, you believe that there is a wage gap. But there is no wage gap. Let's do this. If you are an employer, you own a company, and then you want to employ two people, a man and a woman, doing the same job. By employing a man and a woman, it means that a man will get paid more than a woman. As a sensible capitalist, who would you go for? If you're a sensible capitalist, you will just be employing women because you know that you'll be paying them less compared to if you employ men. They're doing the same job and they're acquiring the same results. You're better off employing women only, because you'll be saving. Even if you're saving a little for a capitalist, it's a lot. Imagine you've got 1,000 employees and all of them are women, and are paying them less if you had men in your company. Would you consider men? Not at all. That's one easy way of debunking the wage gap. And then the other thing is, if you look around, like in my country, I know this is everywhere, you find that a lot of women go for fields where it's easier to acquire that degree or that diploma. A lot of women will go for degrees like teaching, they'll go in fields like nursing, developmental studies, social work, all these degrees which are literally easy to acquire. But most men will go in fields like engineering, medicine in terms of becoming a doctor, all these other harder fields, mathematics, sciences, they're dominated by men. But the easier fields like I mentioned, TS, teaching, social work, and all these others in my country, these are low paying jobs, and these are dominated by women. So what I mean is, women usually go for programs which are in line with being feminine. I don't blame women for going into those fields. It's just in their nature. If a woman goes in social work, if she goes for teaching, if she goes for developmental studies, this is something which is in line with a woman's DNA. Because the thing is, if a man goes in engineering programs, it's in line, because men are attracted to things, and then women are attracted to people. If they go in teaching jobs, nursing, developmental studies, social work, those jobs have to do with helping people, empathetic jobs, such types of things. These are fields which women naturally go for, and these are not high-paying jobs compared to those other programs which men go into, like the STEM field, where you have to do with problem solving, mathematics. So the gender pay gap is BS at best. And then the other thing is, men in most cases work more hours, because for a man is everything. You find that everybody has knocked off at 5, a man has remained doing overtime because he wants to earn an extra buck. So if he does overtime for even half of 30 days or 26 days in a month and add it to his salary, by the end of the month he would have earned more than the lady he's working with on the same job, because he's doing more hours. The gender pay gap is the easiest thing to debunk. And then the thing is, women have been indoctrinated, or they've been lied to. They've been taught that go to school, earn that degree. Once you earn that degree, you'll be the happiest person. But statistically speaking, even just anecdotally, I've seen a lot of women who are like, she's acquired all those degrees, all that money. She's 50, she's 60, single, without children. Those women, even if she's a boss, they end up being the most horrible bosses you'll see, because deep down they know that despite acquiring all that money, all that wealth, there's something missing. They don't have a family, they don't have a child. So who ends up suffering? It's the junior employees, more especially young women. Actually, young women are the ones who suffer more working under a horrible lady boss who doesn't have a family, because she's jealous of a young woman, because she knows that this young woman is beautiful. The chances of this young woman getting a man and getting married and then ending up becoming the family are high. So subconsciously, she's jealous. Even if she doesn't know that she's jealous, she is. That's why the ill treatment is usually targeted towards the younger ladies. So money and all these things for a woman is not actually happiness. Having a family, having a husband, a good husband, is what completes a woman, despite having a good job. And that is acquired if a woman is feminine. If a woman utilizes her best years. Her best years are when she's below 30. Below 30 is when you're fertile. And when you're fertile is when you're most attractive to a man. And when you're most attractive to a man, you have a lot of suitors. If you reach 30 and above, you start attracting the guys you never used to like when you were at your best. Hence, you might settle. And settling in the long run means you resent your husband, which leads to divorces. Once you divorce your husband, you become an angry woman and end up becoming a feminist. Once you become an feminist, you start recruiting young women so that at least you can have a lot of companions while you are sobbing and hating on the world. I have spoken about toxic masculinity before. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's only femininity and masculinity. A man who's masculine is a real man, which every woman out there wants. But a man who has been feminized is the one who shows signs of toxic masculinity. Because an emotional man is a dangerous man. An emotional man, as men, more violent by nature. But the fact that we are good at controlling our emotions, we don't act on our violence. But if you as a man get to be programmed to be an emotional man, you won't know how to handle your emotions. That's why we've got a rampage of shooters out there, mass shooters, all these emotional men. Because even if you check out these religious bombers, most of them, they act with emotions. An emotional man is a dangerous man. A man who knows how to control his emotions is a good man. Because if he controls his emotions, he won't act on his violent nature. Meaning he won't go on a shooting rampage. He won't bomb a school. He won't bomb whatever. So meaning a feminine man is dangerous. What you frame as toxic masculinity is actually the best. Because a man who's not as emotional, who knows how to control his emotions, is good, just like I've mentioned. And this feminism BS was pushed by corporations, just like the young lady in the video we're looking at explained. People like Rockefeller are the ones who pushed for this movement. Because check out, before feminism, all these jobs like teaching, like all the jobs I mentioned, teaching, developmental studies, social work, all these jobs, they used to be held by men. But once they allowed that women could also work, do you know what they did? What they did is they flooded the market with a lot of people to employ or to choose from. Before, it was us men who used to work. It was easier for a man to demand for a higher salary because there were few manpower compared to the jobs on demand. But when the market was flooded with everybody, men and women, it means the demand got up, meaning the employers had more options to choose from compared to before. So if they've got more options to choose from, what do? They'll take advantage of the situation. Meaning, oh, there are a lot of teachers on the market. I'll offer you a quarter of what the other guys used to get, or I'll offer you whatever I want, because if you refuse, I have a lot of people to pick from. So I've got the power, you don't have the power. So if I've got the power, it's either you take it or leave it. So that's what they did. They flooded the market with a lot of manpower, which meant men and women are competing for 100 women are competing for one spot. So meaning me as an employer, I can bitch about it if I want. So that's how come feminism came into power. When feminism came into power, do you know what it did? It divided families, it separated families. It means marriages went under. People are not getting married. So if people are not getting married, do you know what that means? That's more money for the corporations. Because the thing is, if there are a lot of single people in a city, it means there'll be a lot of spenders. Unlike to a situation where like people are coming from one house. If people are coming from one house and have got 100 houses, it means 50 houses will be unoccupied. But if all of you are single, and all 100 of you are single, all the 100 houses will be occupied and the expenditure will go up. That's how come feminism got pushed into the system. This thing is deeper than you think. And they targeted women because, scientifically speaking, women are what is called agreeable compared to men. Men are less agreeable. It's the same thing when it comes to negotiating a salary. For a woman, they'll usually easily take a salary which is offered to them. But for a man, they'll have to try to play their hand to see like, oh, they've offered me this salary, let me try to see if I can get more. And then they'll negotiate for a higher salary. Yeah, man, this shit goes deep. When I start live streaming, I'll start going into these things in depth. But for now, since my channel is still small, yeah, I can just summarize. But once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'll start live streaming, and then I'll start going in depth into these things. Do you want to see what men go through? Do you really want to see what men go through? If you as a woman is watching this video, or if you as a weak man who's privileged and you don't know how the world operates, check out what Jordan Peterson said with an illustration video to show what men really go through. I hope this changes your mind. Check it out.
It's okay to be a man.
It's not okay. It's necessary. What the hell are we going to do without men? You look around the city here, you see all these buildings go up. These men, they're doing impossible things. They're under the streets, working on the sewers. They're up on the power lines in the storms and the rain. They're keeping this impossible infrastructure functioning. This thing that works in a miraculous manner. They work themselves to death. And often literally, the gratitude for that is sorely lacking, especially among the people who should be most grateful. You see university professors, especially of the social justice bent, they take everything they have for granted, failing to understand entirely that there's a massive infrastructure of unbelievably hard-working, solidly laboring, working-class men breaking themselves in half on a regular basis, making sure that everything that always breaks works.
It's not easy to be a man. We go through a lot. I'm not discrediting what women go through. Don't take me wrong. I love women and I respect what they go through. What I don't like with feminism is, instead of fighting for the so-called equality, they are fighting for superiority, where they want women to be superior than men. But if the world was to crumble to default settings, this is what we would go through. Men will take the lead to protect you, to try to stabilize the situation again, so that you can start enjoying those privileges again. So that's what we go through as men. It's not easy. This is where I'm gonna end my video. Hit like, comment on this topic, subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.